He was born into a world where survival meant becoming a ghost, where wealth was measured not in mansions and yachts, but in loyalty, firepower, and the ability to vanish into thin air. At a time when Mexico's most powerful drug lords were falling like dominoes, captured, killed, or betrayed, one man defied every statistical probability. His name is Fausto Isidro Meza Flores, but the world knows him by a name that strikes fear into the hearts of both rivals and law enforcement: El Chapo Isidro. This is not the story of a cartel boss who flaunts his wealth on Instagram, drives gold-plated Lamborghinis, or parties in Cabo with celebrities. This is the story of a billionaire criminal mastermind who became invisible, a phantom who controls hundreds of millions, possibly billions, of dollars while living like a man on the run, even though he has never been caught. While El Chapo Guzman rotted in an American prison and El Mencho's face plastered every wanted poster in Mexico, El Chapo Isidro remained free, operating in the shadows, building an empire that law enforcement cannot seem to crack. Today, we step inside the shocking billionaire lifestyle of the FBI most wanted cartel boss, a man so elusive that his survival itself has become legend. This is the story of El Chapo Isidro. Fausto Isidro Meza Flores was born in 1982 in the rugged mountains of Sinaloa, Mexico, the same territory that birthed El Chapo, El Mayo, and countless other cartel legends. But unlike those flashy kingpins who would eventually become household names, Isidro learned early that visibility equals death. Growing up in cartel country during the 1980s and the 1990s meant witnessing the rise and spectacular falls of drug lords who got too comfortable, too visible, too confident. Young Isidro watched as leaders who built palaces and threw lavish parties ended up in the body bags or prison cells. The lesson was clear. In the cartel world, ghosts survive longer than kings. By his early 20s, Isidro had already caught the attention of the Beltran Leyva organization, one of Mexico's most powerful and violent cartels. The Beltran Leyva brothers had split from the Sinaloa Cartel in a brutal civil war that would reshape Mexico's criminal landscape. They needed soldiers who were smart, ruthless, and loyal. Fausto Isidro Meza Flores was all three. He rose quickly through the ranks, not because he was the most violent, though he was certainly capable of extreme brutality, but because he was strategic. While other lieutenants competed for attention and praise, Isidro focused on results. He controlled drug routes, managed production facilities, and most importantly, he kept his mouth shut and his profile low. The Beltran Leyva brothers recognized his value and gave him significant territories in northern Sinaloa, Nayarit, and parts of Sonora. These were not glamorous assignments. They were frontline positions in an escalating war with the Sinaloa Cartel. But for Isidro, war was an opportunity. While others saw chaos, he saw the chance to build his own power base. The name El Chapo Isidro was not just a coincidence. In Mexican cartel culture, Chapo means shorty, a reference to someone's height. Multiple cartel figures have carried this nickname, but when Isidro earned it, there was already one Chapo dominating headlines: Joaquin Guzman, known as El Chapo, the legendary leader of the Sinaloa Cartel. Some say the nickname was an insult, a mocking comparison to the more famous Chapo. Others believe it was a deliberate strategy by Isidro himself, hiding in plain sight by sharing a name with Mexico's most wanted man. Whatever the origin, the name stuck, and it would become synonymous with one of Mexico's most elusive criminal minds. In December 2009, everything changed. Mexican Marines cornered Arturo Beltran Leyva, the most powerful of the Beltran Leyva brothers, in a luxury apartment complex in Cuernavaca. After a fierce gun battle, Arturo was killed. His body was riddled with bullets, and bills were scattered around him in a grotesque display of cartel wealth. For most organizations, the death of their leader means complete collapse. Lieutenants scatter, territories fracture, and rival cartels move in like sharks smelling blood. The Beltran Leyva organization should have died that day. But El Chapo Isidro had other plans. While other lieutenants fought each other for scraps or fled to save their own skins, Isidro did something remarkable. He consolidated power. He took the most loyal soldiers, the most strategic territories, and the most profitable drug routes, and he built his own organization from the ruins. He called it the Beltran Leyva Cartel Remnant, but everyone in Mexico knew this was Isidro's empire now. And then came the real test. El Chapo Guzman and the Sinaloa Cartel saw an opportunity. With the Beltran Leyva organization in disarray, they launched an aggressive campaign to seize northern Sinaloa, Nayarit, and Sonora, territories that Isidro had spent years controlling. What followed was one of Mexico's bloodiest turf wars. Bodies piled up in the streets, entire families were massacred. Towns became war zones as sicarios from both sides fought block by block, house by house. Most analysts predicted Isidro would not last 6 months against the might of the Sinaloa Cartel. They were wrong. Isidro's strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. He did not fight like a traditional cartel boss. He did not defend territory out of pride or ego. He moved constantly, struck quickly, and disappeared before anyone could retaliate. His forces became guerrilla fighters, ambushing Sinaloa convoys, assassinating key lieutenants, and then melting back into the mountains. But more importantly, Isidro invested heavily in something most cartel bosses overlook: loyalty. He paid his soldiers better than the competition. He took care of their families. He did not use them as cannon fodder. He trained them, armed them with military-grade weapons, and treated them like a professional army. The result? While the Sinaloa Cartel threw wave after wave of sicarios at Isidro's territories, they could not break him. Bodies stacked up on both sides, but Isidro remained free, his organization intact, his drug operations continuing without interruption. During this period, something remarkable happened. El Chapo Isidro essentially disappeared from public consciousness, while his rival, El Chapo Guzman, was captured, escaped from prison twice, and became the world's most famous drug lord. Isidro operated in complete silence. No photos leaked to the press, no corridors celebrated his exploits, no videos surfaced of him partying with celebrities or showing off gold-plated guns. For years, the only evidence of his existence was the drug shipments that kept flowing north and the bodies of those who crossed him. Law enforcement officials started calling him the Ghost. The DEA, the FBI, and Mexican authorities knew he existed, knew he was operating a multi-hundred-million-dollar drug empire. But they could not find him. Surveillance operations turned up nothing. Informants either did not know where he was or were too terrified to talk. Military raids on suspected hideouts found only empty buildings. Isidro had mastered what so many cartel leaders failed to understand. In the modern era, invisibility is more valuable than any mansion, any yacht, any public display of power. Here's where El Chapo Isidro's story becomes truly fascinating. Conservative estimates place his personal wealth at hundreds of millions of dollars. More aggressive analysts, looking at the scope of his drug operations, suggest he might be worth over $1 billion. His wealth comes from multiple sources, each one carefully structured to avoid detection. Drug trafficking operations generate the bulk of his income. Isidro controls significant methamphetamine production facilities in northern Mexico, so-called super labs capable of producing tons of crystal meth each month. He is also heavily invested in fentanyl production. manufacturing pills that are shipped across the United States, fueling an addiction crisis that kills nearly 200 Americans every single day. His cocaine operations run along established routes in Sinaloa, Nayarit, and Sonora, moving South American cocaine north to the United States. These are not small-time operations. They involve shipments measured in tons, not kilograms. Extortion and protection rackets provide steady, predictable income. Small businesses, farms, and even other criminal organizations pay Isidro's organization for protection. This is not just about money, it is about control, about maintaining power in territories he dominates. Money laundering networks transform his drug profits into seemingly legitimate wealth. Isidro's organization operates through a sophisticated web of front companies, real estate investments, and cash-intensive businesses that make his dirty money look clean. The most shocking part is this: he has accumulated all this wealth while remaining completely free. No arrest, no prison time, no close calls that made international headlines. In an era when El Chapo, El Mencho, and countless other cartel bosses either died or got captured, Isidro just keeps getting richer. How he spends his billions, the Anti-Kingpin. This is where El Chapo Isidro breaks every stereotype about drug lord lifestyles. While other cartel bosses blow their fortunes on cars, clothes, and clubs, Isidro spends like a man preparing for war, because that is exactly what he is. Remote properties and mountain compounds form the backbone of his lifestyle. Forget penthouse apartments in Guadalajara or beachfront mansions in Cabo. Isidro owns isolated ranches deep in the Sinaloa Mountains, properties so remote you need local guides just to find them. These are not luxury estates. They are military installations disguised as ranches, complete with armored vehicles, sophisticated communications equipment, and escape routes planned down to the minute. Each property is chosen for strategic value, not aesthetic appeal. Can military helicopters reach it easily? Are there multiple escape routes? Do the locals support him, or could they betray him? These are the questions that determine where Isidro spends his money, not views or architectural design. Private armed forces consume a massive portion of his wealth. Isidro does not just have bodyguards, he maintains a private army. We are talking about hundreds of trained sicarios, armed with military-grade weapons, organized into specialized units. His investment in firepower is staggering. Armored trucks capable of withstanding military assault, Barrett 50 caliber sniper rifles that can disable vehicles from a mile away, night vision equipment, encrypted communication systems, and drone technology for surveillance. This is not a criminal organization. It is a paramilitary force that happens to traffic drugs. But here is what makes Isidro different. He does not just arm his soldiers and send them to die. He pays them well, far better than rival cartels. He provides for their families. When one of his men is killed, Isidro ensures the family is taken care of. This investment in loyalty has created an organization that does not crumble when pressure increases. It adapts and survives. Intelligence networks might be Isidro's most valuable investment. He employs lookouts called halcones throughout his territories. These are not just random people watching for cops. They are organized networks of spotters, informants, and intelligence gatherers. When Mexican military operations launch, Isidro often knows before the soldiers even leave their base. His intelligence network includes corrupt officials, local residents who support him, and sophisticated electronic surveillance. This early warning system has saved his life countless times, allowing him to disappear before raids even begin. Community protection payments represent another unique aspect of his spending. Unlike cartels that terrorize local populations, Isidro invests in relationships with rural communities. He pays locals for food, shelter, and most importantly, sinks. When military operations sweep through the mountains, residents suddenly become forgetful, unable to remember if they have seen anyone matching Isidro's description. This strategy serves multiple purposes. It generates genuine loyalty, not just fear, from populations that feel abandoned by the Mexican government. It creates a human shield that law enforcement cannot simply shoot through, and it ensures a constant stream of intelligence about military movements, rival cartel activities, and potential threats. Drug production infrastructure is where the real money goes. Isidro operates multiple methamphetamine super labs, facilities capable of producing industrial quantities of crystal meth. These are not backyard operations. They are sophisticated chemical manufacturing plants with quality control, supply chain management, and distribution networks that would impress any legitimate pharmaceutical company. His fentanyl production facilities are even more concerning. Using precursor chemicals imported from China, Isidro's organization produces pills that look identical to legitimate prescription medications but contain lethal doses of fentanyl. These pills are killing Americans in record numbers, and Isidro's group is one of the primary suppliers. The infrastructure investment does not stop at production. Isidro controls supply chains for precursor chemicals, transportation networks that move drugs north, and distribution systems that ensure his product reaches American streets. This vertical integration is what separates true cartel kingpins from street-level dealers. Laundering operations transform his drug profits into wealth that can be used without triggering law enforcement attention. Isidro's organization launders money through ranching operations, farming exports, and cash-intensive businesses in small towns throughout northern Mexico. Real estate purchases are made through front families, people with no apparent connection to criminal activity who suddenly have the resources to buy properties. Agricultural exports provide cover for massive cash movements. Small-town businesses generate just enough legitimate revenue to justify suspicious deposits. The sophistication of these operations rivals any legitimate financial institution. Isidro employs accountants, lawyers, and financial experts who structure his wealth to minimize detection while maximizing accessibility. This might be the most important part of understanding El Chapo Isidro's survival. What he refuses to spend money on. He does not own exotic car collections. No Lamborghinis, no Ferraris, no Bugattis sitting in climate-controlled garages. These vehicles are traceable, memorable, and serve no practical purpose for a man trying to remain invisible. He does not have gold-plated guns or flashy weapons. While other cartel bosses pose with diamond-encrusted pistols for social media, Isidro carries functional military weapons chosen for reliability, not appearance. He does not wear designer clothing or luxury fashion. No Gucci, no Versace, no Louis Vuitton. Isidro dresses like a rancher because that disguise keeps him alive. He does not own yachts or private jets that are registered in his name or vacation properties in tourist destinations. Every asset he possesses serves a strategic purpose. Visibility is the enemy. He does not maintain public girlfriends, celebrity connections, or social media presence. In an era where cartel members cannot resist posting their lifestyles on Instagram, Isidro remains completely absent from social media. This restraint, this discipline, is what separates El Chapo Isidro from almost every other major cartel figure. While El Chapo Guzman built a larger empire and achieved greater fame, his need for recognition, his relationships with actresses, his media interviews, and his increasingly brazen escapes eventually led to his capture. He is now serving life in an American supermax prison, his billion-dollar fortune seized, his organization fractured. Isidro watched El Chapo Guzman's fall and learned the ultimate lesson. Fame kills. El Mencho, leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, controls more territory, and generates more revenue than Isidro, but he has also become Mexico's most wanted man. His face is on wanted posters across 2 continents. The pressure on him is immense, constant, and most analysts believe it will eventually result in his death or capture. Isidro operates under far less pressure because he has maintained his ghost status. El Mayo Zambada might be the only cartel leader whose career rivals Isidro's in longevity and low profile. Mayo has remained free for decades, operating in the shadows, avoiding capture through similar strategies of loyalty, intelligence, and restraint. But even Mayo has had close calls, and he is far older than Isidro. The question in cartel circles is not if Mayo will eventually fall, it is when. Los Chapitos, El Chapo's sons, inherited their father's empire, but not his restraint. They are flashy, they are violent, and they are constantly in the news. While they have maintained power, they have also become high-profile targets. Their social media presence, public feuds, and inability to stay out of the spotlight make them vulnerable in ways their father eventually experienced. El Chapo Isidro has outlasted, outmaneuvered, and outlived most of his generation of cartel leaders. He has survived the Beltran Leyva collapse, the Sinaloa Cartel war, the rise of new generation cartels, and Mexico's militarized crackdown on organized crime. He has done all this while accumulating hundreds of millions, possibly billions, of dollars. Billionaire might describe his wealth, but not the way he lives. At the end of the day, El Chapo Isidro's story is not just about drug trafficking or criminal wealth. It is about a man who understood the game better than almost anyone else playing it. In an industry where ego kills, where visibility equals vulnerability, where today's kingpin is tomorrow's prisoner, Isidro made himself disappear. His billionaire lifestyle looks nothing like what we imagine when we think of drug lord wealth. There are no music videos, no celebrity parties, no Instagram posts flexing gold chains and exotic cars. Instead, there are mountain compounds, armed militias, and a network of loyalty that money alone cannot buy. The real question is not how much money El Chapo Isidro has, it is how much longer he can maintain this ghost status. The FBI has a $5 million reward for information leading to his arrest. The DEA considers him one of the most significant drug traffickers operating today. Mexican authorities have launched countless operations trying to capture him, yet he remains free. Some say he will eventually make a mistake, get too comfortable, and let his guard down for a moment. Others believe he has learned the lessons that others missed. In the cartel world, the man who survives longest is not the most violent, the most powerful, or the most famous. He is the one who understands that true power comes from remaining invisible. El Chapo Isidro has built a criminal empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars, possibly more. He survived wars that killed or imprisoned dozens of cartel leaders. He has remained free while the FBI, DEA, and Mexican military all hunt for him. His lifestyle, remote, disciplined, and invisible, might not be glamorous, but it has kept him alive and wealthy while his peers rot in prison or lie in graves. In the brutal mathematics of the cartel world, that makes him one of the most successful criminal minds of his generation. The ghost of Sinaloa remains free, his empire intact, his fortune growing. Somewhere in the mountains of northern Mexico, El Chapo Isidro is probably laughing at everyone who thought visibility equals power. What are your thoughts on El Chapo Isidro's strategy of staying invisible while building a billion-dollar empire? Do you think his ghost tactics will keep him free, or will law enforcement eventually catch up to him? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden world of cartel billionaires and the shocking lifestyles they lead. The truth is always darker and more fascinating than the headlines suggest.